Your first task for this lesson is to go and complete the 2 exam questions that you have been given. Please pause the video and then complete those exam questions. Here are the answers to question 1. Notice how it starts talking about a computer using von Neumann processor architecture. So we're thinking about a computer, remember, with one memory unit which stores both data and instructions. So it also has RAM. So it's making it clear what type of computer this is. So RISC and CISC are 2 types of processor architecture. Describe the differences between the 2. This is a 4-mark question. So remember, if you look at the marking guidance, it says you must not be using task, you must be using instructions. Our technical language is really important, remember, at A level. So some of our points could have included CISC is more complex, RISC is simpler. So we're thinking about the types of instructions. CISC has more instructions or a longer instruction set. That is because there's more options, remember, and there are fewer instructions in RISC. Some of those instructions only have one task in RISC. Remember, we can't use task. Whereas CISC, its instructions are more complex. It can do more things. So remember, RISC requires more RAM. Remember, last lesson we were talking about, for the multiply example, there were 4 different memory locations needed for that one instruction compared to CISC, which only had 1. And CISC has many address modes. CISC has more registers. And then finally, we're talking about RISC takes 1 machine cycle. So we're talking about 1 clock cycle to complete each instruction, which the advantage, remember, is pipelining. RISC has a fixed number of bytes, whereas CISC can be variable. Let's mark question number 2. So the question says, what do these 2 low-level assembly programs do? So there's the first part of it. Can you explain which one is running using reduced instruction set computing RISC and which one is using CISC? And I want a little bit of detail in this. So actually both are doing the same program, which is to multiply values together. Hopefully you can figure that out from the second program. So I've given you an example. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, so the first program is obviously using RISC because it's got more instructions. It's reduced instruction set computing. So as you know, the second one is going to be using CISC. I've given you a bit more information on this. In the process, there's a limited number of low-level instructions, and the action of multiplying 2 numbers has to be split down into 4 steps. Whereas in the second program, actually, we have sub-instructions within that program, mult, which includes loading and storing of the data as well. So today I want us to really be confident in the differences between these and be able to actually evaluate the pros and cons of some of these differences. You should have a clear definition for these keywords now. Task number 1. I want you to make a Venn diagram, and then I want you to decide one of them is RISC and one of them is CISC. What are the commonalities? So first of all, I want you to think about what are the commonalities between these 2. There are commonalities, you're just going to have to think carefully about what they might be. And then what are the differences? Pause the video and please complete this task. Okay, let's think about some of the commonalities. Well, first of all, they both store instructions in RAM. We know this. They're both types of processors. There are lots more that you might use, and I want you to try and think about those and then go back through your notes and make sure you have clearly identified the differences. Here is our summary from last lesson. If you've missed any of these from your RISC versus CISC Venn diagram, can you go and add these now? This is a task that we could only complete in class, but you need to be clear on what the differences are, and you need to be able to argue why one is better than the other. I want you to spend a few minutes researching which type of CPUs are used in different devices, such as mobile phones, tablets, dishwashers, notebooks, laptops. You can choose which devices, but I want you to do a range. Then I want you to summarise the type of architecture. You might know some of this already, but I want you to go and check and use that deeper understanding, please.